I can hear me now. That's good. All right, so my name's Jeff Frick. I'm going to talk about the history of pinball today. We're going to talk about the history, features, gambling. We're going to have a Q&A session. I'm going to try to ramble for about 45 minutes. Please ask questions if you want. We have examples of games up here. It's going to be nice. So previously when I did this, I used to talk about just coin-operated pinball and after. But I'm going to show some nice examples of some pre-coin-operated precursor to pinball. Here's one right here. It's I don't know how you explain this game. So it's a Troupy Hollandaise. It's from the mid to late 1800s. It's a French game. Where the sign is, you would have a top, and you would spin the top, and all these wooden pieces would fall down. And these wooden pieces are actually on inserts, playfield inserts. So they have 100, 200, 300 points. And depending on how well you spin the top, I don't think I have a video of it, but depending on how well you spin the top, it would go and it would knock all these down. This was pre-bowling. This was pre-pinball. It's really the beginning of knocking stuff down to get points, as far as I can tell. Super cool game to play. It's currently on exhibit at the Roanoke Pinball Museum up in Virginia. And Nick will let you play if you are nice enough to him. Yes, ma'am. Mid to late 1800s, right? So real early, right? And I just think these are cool because they're cool. Maybe let me see if I can find a video of it. If I'm lucky. Pre-war pinball group. That's definitely something you can go check it out. We're on Facebook. I'm not going to spend all day searching through stuff, but if I can find pictures of that game being played, I'd like to show it. All right, well, of course I can't find any pictures, so I'm going to kill that for a while and go back to this. The other game I wanted to show that is really early that you're able to play at our booth over here is this Red Graves Bagatelle game. They started making these in 1871 and made them all the way up through early 1900s, right? So you can go and you put your ball in here, the ball comes up, it hits the bells, the star spins depending on where your star is pointing to. You get more points. This one actually has the original Parlor Bagatelle stuff on the back, which is really neat. And we have some flyers from this out at the booth as well. People say that this one is the invention of the plunger. You don't really see a plunger to plunge the ball before that. So it's kind of fun to play as long as you get down to it, right? So that's my pre-war pinball speech, right? And now if I remember how to use this correctly, I'll be doing a slideshow and then talking. We'll see how far we get. Oh, look at that. So pre-war pinball, we have a couple of different places you can come check us out. For the history of pinball, we have historyofpinball.org with a renewed SSL certificate as of last week. We have facebook.com/pre-war pinball, and that's the History of Pinball site on Facebook. We have groups/pre-war. We have about 1,200 people in that group that are all talking about pre-war games. If you're ever looking for one for sale, that's a good place to do it. If you're looking for repair advice, it's also a good place to do it. And you can contact me at jeff@historyofpinball.org. I'm happy to answer your questions or take your grandfather's game out of the garage where it's been for 40 years. What? Oh, yeah, come by our booth. Did I say we had a booth? We have a booth on the other side of the room. We have 26 games this time, ranging anywhere from 1932 to about 1936. There might be a 37 in there, but I don't think so. So come by and play. All our games are on free play. We have nickels, we have pennies, and a lot of them are set up for free play. Easy to learn, impossible to master. And we have bounties if you get the high score on the games. So those are in my box, by the way, if you need them. All right, so why pre-war? I get a bunch of these questions. Why do you like pre-war games? Aren't they incredibly boring? I get a lot of, they don't take any skill. And I get a lot of, but I want ramps and lights and VUKs and all these things that are in Jaws, which is incredibly fun to play, by the way. I went and played it today, right? So we're going to talk about the humble beginnings of coin-op pinball. I think this is a picture of the Bally factory, because you can see the Ballyhoo machine, which was one of Bally's first game, here in the assembly plant. They made like 50,000 of these games. You start talking about, Adam's Family, they made, 12,000 of them or something like that? 22, right? So, and then you start talking about Ballyhoo, where they made 50,000, and Rockola World Series, they made 70,000. Rockola Jigsaw, about 60 or 70,000 from the production figures that I've seen, and they're all gone. Partly because of, history, and they get old and they fall apart and people throw them in the trash, and most significantly because pinball is based pretty much on gambling. And we have all kinds of gambling machines in our booth. So the games were taken, they were destroyed, and they were either thrown in the creek or in the garbage dump. There's a good video in DFW, one of the DFW news organizations, where they raided one of the Fort Worth bingo halls, took all the pre-wars and the bingos out, and then go to the dump and destroy them. And all I can think of is, I need those parts, right? So, pretty cool. So here's some beginning, here's a timeline. One of the first games, 1931, is Wiffle. And it's a pretty basic game. You shoot the ball, you got a bunch of pins on the ball. It very much looks something like this Bagatelle, where you just kind of have pins and you have a couple of holes, but the holes are numbered now when you get to Wiffle, and you get to count your own score. Invented in Youngstown, Ohio. First machine with a coin slot, unless you count Log Cabin, but I don't count that as a pinball machine. But it does have a ball and a plunger. You have to draw the line somewhere, I guess. 1932, you just start seeing the major companies come out, the ones that you're used to playing. Ballyhoo by Bally, Baffle by Gottlieb. And again, they're running more than 50,000 games apiece. That was 1932. You start to see more interesting features come out in 33. People decided, hey, these have caught on. I can make a lot of money on them. You see something like Bally Airway, which has the first totalizer. At the bottom of the game, you can play that at the booth. It keeps the score for you. You still have to be able to add, but it does keep the score for you. You also start to see cards come out that have skill points on them. There's a couple of Airway skill points card where you can play by color, or you can play by city, or you can play by points. And when you get enough of those, you end up with enough points to turn in at the bar for a pack of cigarettes or a beer, whatever it is. Airway actually had a sister called Bally Rocket, which was the first electric payout machine. That was also in 33. And that game is almost exactly like Airway, except it has cars on the playfield. And if you get 1,000 through 5,000, it drops a nickel out the coin slot, just like a slot machine. If you get the rest of them, it can dump up to, I want to say it's 10 nickels if you get the entire row and get all 10 balls in all 10 holes, which I've never seen anyone do in my entire life. And we have a bounty for it. You can get a Texas Pinball Festival token from one of the previous years if you can do that this weekend for us. You also start to see a lot of duplicates of games, especially with like Wiffle and Ballyball or Ballyhoo. You see many different companies start to put out the same looking game. If you look at, what's the Genko game? Not Jiggers. What was the one that the lawsuit was? So you start to see lawsuits from some of the companies because you got 4 or 5 companies putting out pretty much the same machine, and that went to court, and the original company, I think it was Genko, won that lawsuit. You still see them come out. You also start to see a lot of rethemes. You'll have your game, you'll put your game on site. Of course, people get bored with it after a while. You'll start to see ads for playfields, especially for Ballyhoo. I've seen a lot of those, where you have a replacement playfield. It has a different theme on it. It has war or girls or racism or whatever the topics of the 30s were, and it goes into the machine and makes it a whole new machine and allows you to collect your earnings some more on the route, which is good. Automatic amusements. It's where Harry Williams started, right? Harry Williams from Williams Pinball. He created one of the first tilts that was the Bob tilt, which is electronic. It's a really neat, when you look at his inventions and read some of his interviews, he started to bring a lot of those features that you like to play today into the game. Tilt in 1933. Now, there were a lot of tilts that were not electric in 1933, and you'll see 800 styles, and we'll go over that later in here, I think. Pamco Contact was also 33, also Harry Williams. It had a kicker and a bell ringer. Some people say it was the first machine with electricity. I can have that argument. Bally Rocket also had electricity at the time, and they were both within 2 or 3 months of each other coming out. And you'll see a lot of the games, we have some of them run on batteries. Some of them we've converted to adjustable transformers. Some of them run straight on power. And you start to see that move as you get closer to 36, them go into real power and power chords. 1936, Bally Bumper. It's the first machine with what we would consider bumpers. You'll see the bumpers on there. You hit the bumpers, they score points. It has an actual scoring in the back glass, so it's like a score reel that's lit up, and you're able to see what score you make. And then, as far as I'm concerned, nothing good happens to pinball until 1947 when we get flippers. You start to see a lot of those pre-47 wood rails that are a lot of bump and nudge, which some people like, some people don't. All right, so here's some early machines. That's not a bad picture, I like that. So here's the Wiffle that I was talking about, 1931. You see a ton of machines that look like this, with this exact same circular layout. A lot of us will call them Wiffle variants. You'll have people that made furniture, and those furniture makers would make 1 or 2 of these games and put them on site. We've had a couple before that just have beautiful burl walnut down the side and super engraved side rails. They're just gorgeous. Here's a 1932 Mills Deluxe Official. You'll notice the layout is pretty similar to the Wiffle, but just a little different, right? Still that wood play field, not a lot of colors. And then you start to see some Art Deco creep in, right? You look at this ballyhoo, it's just an absolutely gorgeous machine with the colors and the payouts, and we're still not scoring for you. The baffle ball, that's an early Gottlieb. It kind of scores for you when it comes in this rail down on the bottom. Kind of doesn't. All right, now we're going to talk about features. I like this picture too, because this is the old school gambling house where you used to go, right? I like those boater hats, by the way, Brian. I'm going to get one of those. So you can see in here, there's a jigsaw in there, I can tell. There's a couple of jigsaws. And people would line up, and there'd be the guy back there with the billy club watching people play to make sure they didn't cheat. And so you could turn in your points at the end of the game and get your skill points or whatever they happen to be giving away for the day, right? I like this. I call this slide, what is old was once new, and what is new really isn't new. So flippers, well, yeah, I can show you a game with flippers from 1932. They're not electronic flippers, they're manual flippers, and you can see you have the paddles on the bottom. They flip the opposite direction. They're very much reminiscent of a 47 Humpty Dumpty or a 47 Cinderella, but non-powers. But yeah, we had flippers in the 30s, right? That's not anything new. Wire forms. This is a Chicago Rapid Transit. This game is amazing. Do I have the video for this? I hope I have the video for this. So this game, you'll see it has ramps. I think it has a VUK on it. See if my internet works. Oh, good. So here is a video that I'm going to try to get started of this. Hey, Robert, how do I flip between this? How do I flip between my stupid, trying to play my video? Oh, there it is. No, I can't. I don't have it. I should have brought my other monitor. Oh, I have a mouse. I just can't get to it. Oh, I can stop my PowerPoint. I'm sorry, I write the software. I don't use the software. Escape. Here, I'll do this. I'll hit X. How about that? X works, and then I'll go back to my slide. There we go. There we go. Here. So check this out. So what they're going to do is they're going to load up all of the balls into this area, and then they're going to hit the action hole, and it'll kick all the balls around. See, I forget if Cliff actually hits it or whether he puts it in. It's one of those two. Here we go. So you see how it kicks all the balls around, it goes through the habit trails, it ends up on the inner play field. It does a lot of those same kind of things you see with ramps today. I just think this is such a cool game. This one? The blue? Oh, the center start. Yeah, so Brian's saying if you hit the center start, it kicks the blue ones up into this area. You see he just hit it right there and the blue ball came up. You'll see this game has lights. It has pretty much everything that a modern pinball machine has. Except for a shark eating the ball. It doesn't have that. Look at that, I figured it out. All right, so that's some wire forms in there. I have a video of this one somewhere, but I would suggest if you like this Spitfire game, that you come over and play it at the booth. It's incredible. It also has habit trails. It has a subway under there. You load up the balls in the kicker. You hit the center hole to kick them off, and they go all over the field. They end up in the subway. They come up, they spin around, they end up at the center play field. It's a very neat game. It surprises people when they play it because people are not used to early games doing things. Ticket payouts. So, like I said, these games are gambling games. Some of the games had coins that came out, right? And we have an example of that in our booth. We have a 36 Bally Gold Rush that we're trying to see if it actually kicks out coins, but it plays, so. You had tickets. This is a Stoner ticket from Stoner Machines. You could buy these games originally for $15 to $30 depending on the game, and you had a choice of whether you wanted a coin payout or a check payout or a ticket payout. Checks meaning small tokens and stuff like that. We have a couple examples of Jennings tokens at the booth as well. But it's just like Chuck E. Cheese. Here's your tickets, right? Except I don't remember any silhouettes of hot ladies on my Chuck E. Cheese tickets. Could happen. Tilts. Here's another thing that started really early. You can see on this 34 Rockola World Series, here, this red right here is tilted. Oh, you can't see my mouse, can you? Huh, fair enough. Is there a pointer? I don't know. Yeah, it's down in the lower right hand, score void if tilted. You can see on the back, it has your payouts. If you get different amounts of runs. Are you going to? Excellent, yes, there we go, right? So, but based on the different amounts of runs you get different skill points. Again, you can turn those skill points in for anything. And so this is just an early example of a tilt, right? Here's some more examples of a tilt. Here's one in the Bally Airway. We have a Bally Airway open for you to come look at any point during the show. You can see this tilt is like a standard lift tilt, like in the regular pinball machines that you have today. On the left-hand side, you lift it up, it goes to the back. In this case, rather than an electric thing, it hits the actuator, and that actuator goes to tilt it. Well, unless I see you, yeah, right? Yeah, so, yeah, you could do the side-to-side thing a lot. But if you lifted up the front, it would definitely tilt. And probably the side-to-side thing would have that guy with the billy club after you as well, so. All right? That's funny. Okay, here's a pigeon tilt. I really like the pigeon tilt. This is in the Fleet, and we have an example where the tilt bar is in there. So you'll see in the circle, there's a hole in the bottle. There's a hole in the middle, and there's a metal bar that rises up and sits up and holds the ball above this cup. So if you tilt the machine, the ball will fall off of the rod into the cup, and the pit boss would tell you could go away. Oh, do we? And this Fleet is actually up here, and you can see how that pigeon tilt works. Gambling, right? So I think this is Mayor LaGuardia going after it. What a shame. Those are some nice machines. And this is actually a later photo because that Cyclone is 40s, I want to say, right? And I think the one on the left is a Mills. So we'll talk about gamblings. Payouts. So you see this a lot on the back of the games. You'll see your payout, how much you're going to get. All 10 balls must be played. No free games given. All of the rules, most of which were to make you not win, because you can't make any money if you play fair. So they had a lot of back glasses like this. You had a lot of scorecards, just like you see the scorecards in the bottom left of your machine nowadays. Here you'll see in Rocket, you would get 2 free games. Well, what does 2 free games mean? Does it mean 2 nickels? Does it mean a pack of cigarettes? I don't know, right? You have to ask. And void if tilted, right? You can see 2 ways to win on Rocket as well. You could get the 1,000 through 600, which would pay out the nickels out the side, or you could get the gold through white, tan, I don't know, right? You could get the white through tan, and you would also get the scores. Now, in reality, if you look at the machine, it's going to be the same pattern. So, like the gold was 1,000 and the yellow was 900. It would be the same pattern, but it would give you a different way to try to mentally grab your people to come play some more. The Rocket and the Airway also have cities on them, and you can see where there's another card where you could win by getting 5 cities, which would just be the same 5 ones, of course, but different way to get people to play. Payout machines, here are some more back glasses. Jigsaw, Army, Navy, Play Ball, which is World Series, those are all Rockola. You can see where there were operators that made their own. 6,000 or over, you get 15 cents in trade. Double score does not count. That's interesting. It's a good way to not give out a lot of money. Where on the far right side, you see a jigsaw where double score actually does count. No, well, I went fast today. All right, so I've hit a half an hour. Do we have any Q&A? Do we want to talk about games? Do y'all want to come up and look at these and see how they're put together? We have 2 apart, and you can see the mechanics, how the balls roll down. Good. Come up and take a look, right? Come to the booth and play some games. Thank you for sitting through my diatribe. Oh. I ran real fast today. I wonder if I'm on the wrong slide deck. I don't know, but we do have a lot of interesting things to come look at up here, and that's the other half of the seminar, right? When you restart the game, right? You see all the carved areas where it would come down. You see a lot of that all through the days. That's a traditional kind of ball lift up through the 50s on the side. It's a push, and it just pushes the ball all the way up to the top, comes out on the playfield. Some metal castings in there. You already talked about the score totalizer on the top. So wherever you hit the ball in, it would roll down. It would hit the totalizer flipper, and you'd be good to go. What you looking at? Let's have a discussion. What are we talking about?
I have a World Series.
Okay. Oh, well, absolutely. Well, we have one we're going to take apart over there, so you can come by.
Completely in pieces. If you're looking for different stuff, they can show you where the different parts are.
All right. And depending on the parts you need, depending on the parts you need, I might have some sitting in my box, right? So.
World Series is an interesting one because like this one will let you hit 10 balls. If you shoot 10 of them, wherever they wind up, you're done.
If you get all 10 balls and all 10 holes, you get $100.
If you get a run, they stay up. But if you get 2-3 strikes and you get it out, you're done for the ball. If you get a foul ball and it falls in, you get to reshoot some of those, different things like that. But that ball feed mechanism, you've got that great big cast piece underneath it. It catches all the balls that fall down through and it feeds it back to the shooter one at a time. So you can keep shooting more and more balls, whereas this one, it's like you don't get to shoot any more until you shot all 10 and drop another nickel. And it's fun watching because you can see where it collects all of those here in that tray, and then when it resets, it drops them down into the trough, and now you can reshoot them again. And like I said, World Series has that whole setup where it's feeding them back the whole time. With that one, when you hit 3 outs, there's a little ratcheting score mechanism under there, and when it kicks that last third out, it now blocks from pushing a ball up, and you can't load any more into the shooter. So lots of different mechanisms. It's totally mechanical.
So we got it's totally mechanical, this airway here, so is World Series. And then over here, Fleet Junior, this is one of the first games with electricity and solenoids. So if you look in here, the solenoid is one big Coke can looking mother in there. And all it does is it shoves the entire back metal actuator plate straight up like that, hits the bell, and on each of those,
there's a little hook on it that goes up through the play field, and on top of the play field are cannons. And if you load a ball into that cannon, when it fires, it pumps the ball up and it notches it up into the different cannons at higher levels. So the goal of this is you load your cannon, hit the action hole or the repeater to fire it, and it'll fire your cannon up until it drops down into your shell hole, which is your high point.
Yeah, it was one of the first multi-ball games. You could count it as that, right? So you can end up scoring, what, 25,000 on this? Or
28,000 is the absolute
max, right?
Max, you have to get a lucky bounce in 1,000-point cannon on your 10th ball. Because this is another one, as you hit shots, if you hit the action hole or the repeater and you feed them in here, those balls come back to shoot again. If you get balls into your out hole, if you hit the action hole, everything in the out spot drops back in, you get to play it again. So you can recover those, play another round on those balls and reshoot them. So technically, as long as you hit either cannons, the action hole, or get all the way to the out hole, you can keep shooting those as long as you recover them. These guys on the sides that score points are sucker shots, because now they're stuck and you can't get them back. But it is technically possible. God knows who the hell can pull it off. But you can get 9 balls into that shell hole, and your 10th one, these aren't worth a whole lot because you're not scoring anything. But with a good bounce, if you get it into your 1,000 point, 9 times 3, 27,000. With that last one, 28,000.
And if you can get 28,000, we have Texas Pinball Festival tokens to give away to you.
Some 10-year-old kid will.
Yeah, some 10-year-old kid will always do it. Some other cool things about this one, these normally ran on batteries, some of these early ones. It was 1.5 volt batteries, and so you would have a series. You'd have a series of 4 batteries for 6 volts. You'd have, how many ever for 9? 6, I can't do math today, sorry. So you'd have 6 for 9 volts. The real issue that we found on some of these is the amperage. The 6-volt lantern battery doesn't quite kick like it used to. So we've had some people move them to 9. We've had some people do the aftermarket transformer, which actually works really well. You also start seeing things in here like there's a magnet on this coin slide. So if you started to put your slugs in there, it would catch those, right? There's also a check hole on this. If you look down at the bottom right corner, there's like a little magnifying glass that you would look in and go, that wasn't a nickel, that was a Canadian nickel, and we're not going to give you the money for the Canadian nickel. Right? What now? I think they just shove the next one through. Yeah.
Reset goes through, the reset fires, that drops that down.
Falls in, and then when it lifts back up.
Yeah, it sinks down into that cut, the ball falls on top, it lifts it back up, and once it's raised, if that ball is sitting on it, if I don't launch it out, but it will sit on top of that, and if you move it too much, it falls off the side. You can't get it back on top because it has to go down to fall back into it.
We found that we could put different size balls on that pigeon tilt. Some are easier to knock off and some are harder to knock off depending on how bad I want to screw with you and take your money, right?
To that end, this one's set very tough right now.
Right? Both of these have what they call toilet flaps. on them. So you'll see when the flaps are up, it looks like a little toilet, right? And you get the ball in the toilet. There's a game in Germany by Timo, I think, and it has, they're called clapper flips, which is like clapping flips, because when they knock down, they clap, right? The Deutsches Automatmuseum has an example of that. They just posted on Facebook, which was pretty cool, right? What else? You want to talk about anything else? You have any questions? I really like Spitfire. I really like Spitfire. That's a really good game. I mean, Fleet's incredible to play, and so is Airway. I've been trying to get all 10 balls and all 10 holes in Airway for 10 years, right? And haven't done it once. I've come close, right?
On the internet post about a merry-go-round.
Oh,
Have you
those are very
seen
fun.
one of those?
Yeah, merry-go-rounds have,
Spin in the middle?
it was an early Gottlieb machine, I think it was 33, and they have spinners in the middle, and it's a very similar design to the way Rockola World Series did their spinners, but it's 3 of them. And so as you get the balls in different places, they'll spin around. Yeah, and in fact, Rockola made a game called Paradise Island, and that game is a merry-go-round that's done on the World Series playfield, but it was made for export, because when you sent a baseball game over to Europe, they had no idea what was going on, right? So they did the merry-go-round version, and that apparently they sold a few. There's I don't know of 3 in the U.S., something like that. Yeah, 3rd or 4th one. So they're rare and hard to find, right? Much like the Army Navy, which is Army versus Navy, also by Rockola. There's like 36 of them in the U.S., something like that. I found mine in Europe and got them flipped over. So. All right, anything else? More questions? What are the pins called? I don't know, I call them pins. What do you call them? Do they? Truncheon pins, is that it? Yeah, right? They're impossible to, they're escutcheon pins, and they're impossible to find in that head shape and color. I had to order a bunch from Ukraine or something, I don't know. Yeah, so welcome to Texas Pinball Festival. Have a good time, y'all, and come by the booth and say hello.